Chapter 1, The Town and the Perfect Facade. Welcome to the sleepy town of Thorn Ridge, Alabama, nestled along the banks of the Coosa River in 1847. Known for its sprawling cotton fields and dusty dirt roads, the town seemed a portrait of southern pastoral living. Children played in sun-drenched fields while families gathered at the local gristmill to exchange stories and gossip. Yet beneath the picturesque surface, a dark tension lurked, a tension that would soon break free from its shackles. The Thorn family was not merely a fixture of Thorn Ridge. They were regarded as the epitome of respectable Southern life. Elias Thorn, a well-regarded farmer, stood as a pillar of the community. His wife Martha did her best to solidify that reputation, all while raising their two children, Clara and Benjamin, whose laughter echoed through the halls of the old family home. It was a facade that many admired but few questioned too deeply. "I always thought they were perfect," local shopkeeper Agnes Boggs reflects, her voice tinged with a mix of nostalgia and regret. "But I would catch glimpses, a flicker of something behind their eyes during church meetings, something unsettling, you know." Indeed, the Tom family home was meticulously maintained, adorned with vibrant flowerbeds and an expansive barn that housed chickens, cows, and livestock. Neighbors marveled at the flourishing crops that yielded bountiful harvests each season. Still, whispers circulated in corners about the peculiar comings and goings of the family. The late-night visits from shadowy figures and hushed conversations could not be ignored forever, even if the townsfolk chose to turn a blind eye. Meanwhile, Clara and Benjamin often roamed the fields, chasing butterflies and exploring the tree line where the deep woods beckoned with secrets unspoken. Yet the woods also held an eerie quality, harboring a darkness that promised more than mere shadows. As the oppressive heat of summer settled over Thorn Ridge, the air became thick with anticipation. Families gathered on porches at dusk, yet an unshakable feeling gripped the town. The whispers grew louder as small children stumbled upon the remnants of chicken coops in the woods while exploring remnants that far exceeded farm life. What should have been innocent childhood games soon turned into something far more sinister, leaving behind unanswered questions that hung in the air. Then, just as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the town, the first pieces began to fall. An unexpected disappearance set off tremors throughout the community, reminding them that beneath their perfect facades, dark truths could lie waiting like a coiled serpent, ready to strike. Chapter 2, The Cracks Appear. As the warm days of summer wore on, the warm sunlight soon turned to ominous clouds. Clara Thorn, once seen as a lively spirit, became increasingly withdrawn as whispers turned to hushed concerns among her peers. Unlike her brother Benjamin, who thrived among his friends, Clara often wandered off alone, lost in her thoughts and the secrets entrenched in her family's past. One early afternoon, Clara found herself by the edge of the woods where she had heard strange noises, scratches, flutters, and low murmurs that seemed to beckon her. Her small fingers brushed the overgrown foliage, weaving through twisted roots. It was there that she first stumbled upon a graveyard of sorts, small wooden crosses hastily erected and inscribed with names. But these were not human graves, they belonged to chickens, buried alongside the children of the neighborhood. Mary Lou, Clara's closest friend, was the first to notice. "Clara, what are those? Why do you have graves for chickens?" The innocence of the question tore at Clara's heart, yet the matter felt far more complicated than mere childhood games. "Not just chickens, they're, special," Clara stammered, uncertainty creeping into her voice. "They used to belong to us." The weight of the truth felt heavy on her young mind, fueled by the peculiar events that marked their home. As days passed, neighbors began to murmur about the unusual behavior of the Thorn children. Benjamin often returned home with dirt-streaked hands, going on escapades that circled back to the woods. Agnes Boggs noticed how the local children spoke in hushed tones about things they had seen and heard while near the Thorn house. The once giggling silhouettes of Clara and Benjamin would vanish into the unknown, while mothers kept their children at a distance, concern etched on their faces. Then came the reports of missing pets, dogs, cats, and in the most troubling of whispers, even an occasional child gone for days. Each incident increased the air of suspicion, weaving a web of fear that began to choke the peaceful air of Thorn Ridge. Despite the growing trepidation surrounding the Tom family, Elias and Martha maintained a hard shell of respectability. Neighbors watched Martha bake pies and host gatherings while Elias remained busy on the farm, all the while pretending not to notice the secrets edging painfully close to the surface. The veil of normalcy stood precariously balanced on the precipice of revelation, slipping further into shadows lurking just beyond the town's sight. Mary Lou's curiosity reached a fever pitch, sparking a desire to unravel the mystery surrounding Clara and the Thorn family. What if the graves mean something more? She wondered aloud, echoing the unarticulated fears that loomed within the consciousness of Thorn Ridge. But what awaited them in the woods was a truth that no one could ever predict, one that would slowly unfurl like a flower in the dead of night. Chapter 3 The Breaking Point. The long, oppressive summer days finally gave way to a hot and muggy August night when trouble struck, igniting the spark that would set Thorn Ridge ablaze with turmoil. Rumors swirled like a summer storm, and beneath the heavy air, fear and paranoia hung thick over the town. It began with the unexpected disappearance of little Mary Dunlop, the lively girl known for her wild red curls and infectious laughter. When she failed to return home from playing with Benjamin, panic rippled through the community. The entire town mobilized, searching every corner of Thorn Ridge, calling out for her name as dusk unfolded its cloak over the land. Every house cast long shadows as lanterns flickered on porches, uneasy and reflective, until the town converged at the edge of the woods behind the Thorn property. As Clara gazed from her bedroom window, she could see the gathering, a wave of concerned faces blended with clutches of whispers that carried dismay like a wave rushing to shore. Despite the gentle pull of her own curiosity, unease settled over Clara's heart. Memories of playing at the edge of the woods, coupled with the graves she had encountered, haunted her. She felt a heavy weight pressing down on her little chest as she sensed danger lurking beyond the veil of familiar trees. The search party, led by Elias Thorn himself, tore into the bushes, bellowing for little Mary until their voices echoed into the chilling night. As the minutes turned to hours, the dark forest seemed to mock them, swallowing their cries, casting doubt and urgency into their hearts. It was during a fevered search behind the barn and past the creaking farmhouse that they stumbled upon it, the small, shallow grave near the weathered chicken coop. The area was hidden behind a thicket of gnarled branches. Within it lay a crudely buried box containing a tattered dress unmistakably belonging to Mary Dunlop. As they unearthed the box, murky suspicions merged with dread. Elias knelt beside the grave, the world around him collapsing into disarray as he desperately sought to comprehend the grotesque reality unfolding before him. A gasp escaped Martha's lips as she stood paralyzed, her heart racing. The weight of realization crashed upon the townsfolk like a heavy thunderstorm, ushering in a shift more profound than any could have imagined. Agnes Boggs, horrified, turned to question her neighbors, desperate for answers. "What does this mean? Where have Mary and the others gone?" Her voice trembled with bewildered fear. It was then that Clara stepped forward, her young voice wavering yet resolute. "The chickens, they were put here, but they weren't alone," she murmured, her wide eyes reflecting innocence laced with fear. Suddenly, the air crackled with tension. Before they could decipher her words, voices intertwined with disbelief surged, a frenzy erupting. The Tom family now stood at the epicenter of the storm. Secrets once hidden lay bare in the unforgiving light of midnight. The perfect family facade shattered, revealing the darkness that had trembled beneath the surface. "You need to understand," Martha whimpered, her authority slipping away as the realization of their sins clawed at her. We thought we were giving them peace. But what lay ahead was far from peace, a reckoning that would shake the very foundation of Thorn Ridge itself. Chapter 4 The Truth Uncovered. As dawn broke over Thorn Ridge, the town lay heavy with confusion, disbelief, and sorrow. Days turned into weeks, but the search for Mary and answers only deepened, the shadows of suspicion casting a pall over the town's once gay streets. The Tom family stood at the center of a storm, trapped in a narrative burgeoning with dark truths hidden behind the veil of normalcy. Local authorities had already mobilized, following the buried evidence and sifting through torn recollections of events leading up to Mary's disappearance. Detective Alan McBride, fresh from Montgomery, stepped into Thorn Ridge to get to the bottom of the escalating crisis. With resolve etched across his brow, he was keenly aware of the tight-knit community's unwillingness to confront dark realities that had haunted them. "I could sense an unsettling energy in the air," he recounts. "The eyes of the townsfolk seemed evasive, as if they were reluctant to acknowledge the truth lurking in their midst. But those chickens, they held the key." To approach the Thorn family now was a delicate matter. Both Elias and Martha had spiraled into denial, their smiles twitching with tension as they awaited their fate. Yet inevitably they found themselves surrounded by inquiries both mundane and probing. Detective McBride's piercing gaze fell on Clara and Benjamin, now visibly fraught with burdens etched beyond their tender ages. In an intense exchange, Clara revealed more about the graves, those that her mother had claimed were to honor her past animals but which now grew vague in explanation. "We never meant for it to end this way," Clara murmured, unable to meet his stare. "It was to protect them, to protect me." As memories began spilling forth beneath the weight of the investigation, the Tom children spoke of strange rituals, events passed down through whispers, poorly understood glimpses of their family's legacy. Clara described nights filled with chants echoing through the yard, while the whispered horrors of their parents became intertwined with her own fearful musings. "I always thought it was just our way," she confessed to McBride. "But it always felt wrong, like they were more than just chickens. It felt like they were trying to keep us from being found." Investigators pieced the pieces together, assembling a picture fraught with tragedy. They learned that in their efforts to compensate for their losses, the Tom family had succumbed to an abuse of power darkened by fear of the outside world. The ritualistic burials tied to the chickens symbolized a desperate hope, a resigned belief in controlling the lives of what they deemed sacred, even at great personal cost. As the truth gained momentum, Elias and Martha were seized by guilt and despair that sent ripples through their lives, but detectives remained undeterred. Unforgiving evidence weighed heavily against them. Amid the cacophony of emotion and realization, Thorn Ridge bore witness to the long-buried truths finally rising to the surface, a storm unraveling secrets both old and blood-soaked. Families haunted by their own silence cried out, recalling their own children's interactions with Clara and Benjamin, drawing connections that coiled tighter around the Tom family like weeds. "Things were never quite right, we saw it all but we turned a blind eye," Agnes Boggs admitted solemnly, tears welled in her eyes, regret clawing at her heart. "Children are meant to roam free, not be bound in darkness." The investigation spiraled toward a climax as the truth splintered the unity of Thorn Ridge itself, illuminating their deepest fears, a reckoning eclipsing both town and family. The weight of collective guilt and complicity lingered in the air, forcing each individual to confront the uncomfortable reality that had shadowed their lives for too long. Chapter 5: The Raid and Reckoning. The truth authenticated by investigation laid heavy upon Thorn Ridge as both past and present collided, culminating in a reckoning no one dared foresee. In a flurry of urgency, law enforcement converged upon the Thorn property, armed with the knowledge and determination to confront the darkness that had plagued them for too long. It was a sultry September afternoon when the town buzzed with a raw anxiety, for the authorities were set to raid the Tom family homestead, a pivotal moment awaited by those desperate for resolution. Detective McBride's team, along with townsfolk, gathered fueled by a singular purpose: freedom from the secrets that had darkened their souls for so long. "Today, we're here to unveil the truth," McBride addressed the crowd, steadfast and unwavering. "Whatever we find will shine light on the darkness and bring clarity to those lost." As officers began their search, tensions mounted. Shadows fell ominously across the property, penetrating through long-standing facades of respectability. Each corner revealed layers of memories entangled with terror. The barn doors creaked open, revealing a space filled with a chilling silence that weighed upon everyone present. Upon entering the barn, they uncovered a macabre sight: a makeshift altar draped with remnants of fabric, fragments of flowers, and faded photographs of Mary Dunlop intertwined with chicken feathers. At the heart of it lay an unsettling tribute, a collection of bones, all too small to belong to animals. Each discovery intensified the harrowing reality that the family's facade was but a mask concealing monstrous truths. As searchers sifted through hay bales, limbs grew heavy with comprehension. How had this once picturesque family transformed into orchestrators of actual horrors? The timing could not have been more opportune, for unfolding before them lay necessary questions that transcended trivial concerns. How much had neighbors seen and refused to acknowledge? Within the house, corners draped in shadows overflowed with remnants of grief, childhood items, toys, and drawings that spoke to innocence lost. Johnston, a local historian, recalled a past buried alongside the children. "This town has long been haunted by silence and secrets," he said, a tremor in his voice. "Today, it changes." News of the raid spread like wildfire across Thorn Ridge, igniting locals to confront their own complicity in the family's facade. Conversations surged, fraught with anxiety. Many wrestled with guilt, tugging threads of story as they reflected on their habits of ignoring unsettling moments in favor of convenience. But as the sun retreated into twilight, equality returned to deep-rooted strife. "The time has come to demand accountability, not just from the Tom family but from ourselves," McBride declared, an echo of calm determination in the storm of chaos unfurling around him. As the elders emerged from the shadows, heads held high, they surrounded the Tom residence. The truth that emerged in the dead of night had awakened something powerful in Thorn Ridge, an unyielding longing for accountability, not only for Mary but for every life overlooked. Elias and Martha, now stripped of their defenses, faced their town's collective anger and bewilderment. The aftermath of the raid yielded no simple resolutions, rather, a profound reckoning emerged, intertwined in sorrow and empowerment. As the different families huddled together beneath the old oak tree on the town square, they sought comfort as well as hope. "We've been through a wilderness of silent burdens before today," Agnes said softly, her hands trembling as she turned toward the group. "But now we rise." Chapter 6, Legacy and Reflection. The dust of revelations settled slowly over Thorn Ridge, where the air, once heavy with unspoken dread, transformed into a realm of introspection and healing. In the aftermath of a harrowing chapter, the town gleaned from their experiences lessons etched in resilience and responsibility. The trial of Elias and Martha Thorn unfolded before an audience of townspeople, a heartbreaking scene entwined with collective grief and judgment. The Tom family, once venerated, stood stripped of their facade, now just two individuals engulfed in consequences of their actions. As the testimonies unfolded, memories of Mary Dunlop resurfaced, memories that spoke of lost innocence and too few friendships fostered amidst lingering secrets. "To lose a child in darkness is beyond pain itself," McBride intoned during closing statements, his measured tone infused with somber gravity. "We must ensure that such shadows do not descend upon our community again. Mary deserves justice. We owe it to her and every child who ever felt lost." In the months that followed, Thorn Ridge saw significant changes, and municipalities rallied to improve child welfare practices. Laws designed to increase oversight and enhance the vigilance of communities emerged with speed, grounded in the haunting memories of the Tom family's secrecy. As the seasons shifted, Clara and Benjamin, transformed by their experiences, began to process the truth of their childhood. In the aftermath of darkness, Act I turned to Act II, a promising future painted with hope glimmering amid melancholy. Community gardens blossomed as families engaged in newfound solidarity, fostering an environment where children could grow and thrive. For those lost, memorials adorned the town square. Simple yet sacred displays bearing heartfelt compositions of children lost, stolen innocence, and the weight of resilience emerged as symbols of remembrance and unity. At town meetings, villagers gathered, courage slowly taking root. "This is our commitment," Clara spoke one evening, raw emotion rising to the surface. "To ensure that what happened to Mary and any other child is never forgotten, we choose to stand here together to say enough is enough." As the sun dipped below the horizon, the shadows of the past were held at bay, eclipsed by the unbreakable light of communal responsibility. Thorn Ridge learned that darkness cannot define them, it could only mark their past. With each passing season, families wove the lessons deep into their hearts, echoing a new legacy for generations to come, a promise they made not just to themselves but to their children and their children's children. In doing so, they reclaimed their peace, vowing to navigate a path toward hope against the specter of loss that had once defined their existence. "Because what hides in darkness must be confronted by hope," declared Clara with steady conviction, "and together we rise." Chapter 7, The Resurgence of Fear. As the new laws took root in Thorn Ridge, life began to regain a sense of normalcy, albeit one tempered by scars of the past. Teachers and parents worked together to assure that every child felt safe and valued, while community meetings flourished, transforming once quiet gatherings into rousing discussions about vigilance, compassion, and understanding. Yet just as the echoes of the tragedy began to fade, a new undercurrent of anxiety surfaced. Reports began trickling in from surrounding towns, disappearances, strange encounters with children wandering off alone, enigmatic figures seen in the woods. The fear that had begun to recede now clawed its way back into the hearts of Thorn Ridge's residents. Thomas Bethany, a local farmer and father, observed through narrowed eyes as the dark rumors swept through neighboring communities. "It feels like our darkness isn't finished yet," he voiced at a recent town meeting, unease palpable in his tone. "These things don't just happen, folks, not here, not again." The stories circulated like shadows sneaking back into the corners of their lives, shadows reminiscent of past horrors. Clara, now a young woman, often found herself haunted by echoes of grief. The chickens, the graves, those innocent playthings she once tended now seemed imbued with a deeper shadow. It sent her searching in the woods again, drawn back to the places where secrets stayed hidden. "I need to understand what's happening," she explained to Benjamin one night as they sat side by side under the stars. "If those things are out there again, we have to face them. It's the only way to reclaim our peace." Her brother nodded, his brow furrowed with thought. "But Clara, what if it's not just our past? What if it's something new?" His uncertainty hung in the air. As twilight descended, Clara made her way into the woods where the memories of lost children lingered. The forest felt alive once more, as if whispering secrets that begged to unveil themselves. She pressed forward, heart pounding against her chest, compelled by an unknown force driving her deeper into the shadows. Then she stopped. Before her stood the forgotten graveyard, the crude wooden crosses worn and battle-scarred by the tide of time. The weight of memories washed over her, each grave became a reminder of loss, but each whisper also offered a glimmer of hope. "Is someone here?" Clara called softly, voice trembling as she sensed she was not alone. The feeling enveloped her, transforming her steps into a quiet dance through the underbrush. But the response didn't come from the woods. Instead, Clara felt the prickle of awareness, the uncanny sensation of being watched. "I need to know, are you watching over us?" she whispered into the deepening night. Fear surged within her as a shadow flickered at the edge of her view, distant and ethereal. Clara stepped back, heart racing. "Please show yourself," she pleaded, yearning for connection, not confrontation, but silence lingered in the air, thick and unyielding. Suddenly, a rustle in the bushes snapped her back to reality. The familiar figure of Mary Lou materialized from the darkness, her face etched with worry. "Clara, I couldn't find you, I was so scared." "Mary Lou, I can't shake the feeling that something's wrong," Clara replied, catching her breath. "I felt something here, something we haven't faced yet." "What do you mean?" Mary Lou's eyes widened in concern, mixing dread with trepidation. "Those stories, they can't just be tales of the past. There may be something in these woods, something we've yet to unearth," Clara spoke, referencing the whispers that had circulated through town as if framing their very existence on the edge of truth. With determination painted across their faces, the two friends decided to uncover what lingered in the woods of Thorn Ridge, a quiet understanding settling between them. They were no longer merely players in the narrative, they became the authors of the new chapter, one defined by courage and light. Chapter 8: The Search for Resolution. As days turned into weeks, the tension surrounding Thorn Ridge began to fester. Clara and Mary Lou resolved to gather a coalition of friends, those willing to confront the darkness alongside them. They organized weekend explorations of the woods, an initiative intended to seek clarity and confront whatever waited in those shadows. "Together, we can face what scared us," Clara declared during one gathering. "We can mark our memories, reclaim what was lost, and make sure no child ever disappears again." She felt the resolve of her friends strengthen her determination. Each Saturday, groups of children and young adults braved the woods, bringing lanterns and flashlights, ready to shine light into the eerie corners that had cloaked their past in obscurity. They scoured the woods with meticulous care while stories of their childhood spilled from their lips like spilled ink. Each step taken together became a tribute to their lost friends, every laugh a testament to resilience amid grief. Yet the woods felt both familiar and foreign, the dichotomy of comfort and fear wrapping around them like a chilling embrace. Clara discovered stronger connections to Mary Dunlop and the others they had lost, the shadows no longer seeking to intimidate but to communicate. One fateful afternoon, the friends unearthed something that intensified their sense of urgency, a weathered journal hidden beneath the roots of a rotting tree. The pages were filled with half-baked explanations and despairing prayers, recounting Mary's final moments before her disappearance. As Clara's fingers traced the words, tears brimmed in her eyes. "She was here, she was calling for help," Clara choked, sharing her discovery with Mary Lou and their friends. The written words of a lost child bore haunting prophecy for their community. "I can't believe this," she felt alone. "We have to bring everyone together, share this," Mary Lou insisted, the fire of purpose igniting her soul. "This needs to be known." The gathering in town soon turned into an urgent call for action. Clara and her friends shared their findings, revealing the journal and its contents. The significance of Mary Dunlop's words intertwined with the memories of the other vanished children echoed through the hearts of every listener. Detective McBride, present at the meeting, leaned forward with a thoughtful expression. "This changes everything," he said, determination pooling in his eyes. "Let's refocus our efforts. With this journal, we can start fresh investigations into past disappearances and reignite attention to those still missing." As the mood shifted, hope blossomed within the community once again, the foundation built by fear beginning to transform into a tapestry of support. Families rallied together, understanding their past while forging a unified path toward resolution. Clara and her friends took immense pride in their work. They organized follow-up searches with law enforcement and volunteered time to help record testimonies from families, revealing the emotional scars that came with unending uncertainty. The shadows that had originally encased Thorn Ridge began to dim in the face of collective hope and effort. The woods that once ignited fears became territories of reclaiming their truths. Yet, amid the ebullient atmosphere, uncertainty loomed just beyond the horizon, waiting for its moment to emerge. Would the shadows finally relinquish their grip on Thorn Ridge, or might they creep back into the lives of its people, testing their resolve and threatening to plunge them back into darkness? As Clara gazed at the moonlit sky one quiet night, she could feel the pulse of both fear and hope. One truth remained universally known. They were no longer merely a town haunted by past mistakes. They had chosen to confront their demons head-on, prepared to face whatever darkness awaited them. Chapter 9, Confronting the Shadows. Winter approached, coating Thorn Ridge in a veil of white, ethereal beauty as hope and anticipation hung in the crisp air. Clara and her friends knew that with the deepening trust in their community, they must act decisively to illuminate their hidden truths once and for all. The children from school, once just bystanders in their story, had become empowered advocates, discussing solutions in hushed tones during recess. Families bonded over shared grief, becoming stewards of their community's safety, vowing to never let another child vanish without a trace. On a cold afternoon in late December, Clara and Mary Lou led the charge to hold a town meeting, a culmination of their efforts, designed to confront the fears that haunted them and reconcile the past. Anticipation filled the town hall, its wooden panels trembling as families gathered for what felt like a watershed moment in the collective experience of Thorn Ridge. Detective McBride opened the meeting with a heartening message, praising the confidence in their community and the strength each individual exhibited in the face of adversity. "You've shown remarkable resilience. Together, we can continue to change the course of Thorn Ridge," he stated, drawing nods and murmurs of agreement from listeners. With the town's trust behind them, Clara stood. The small group of brave initiators stood behind her, support glimmering in their eyes. "Tonight we lay our fears to rest," Clara proclaimed, passion igniting her soul. "We must speak not only about safety but healing. Each child who has vanished deserves to be remembered, and each family left reeling must find closure." The gathering erupted into a chorus of affirmations, hopeful spirits mingling with determination as Clara shared her findings from the journal, the words from Mary Dunlop that had woven a new purpose for the community. Each word spoke of loneliness, fear, and a relentless desire to not be forgotten. Within Clara's words lay the power of truth, a fragile but undeniable force against the gloom. Families began to share stories, recounting their own fears and losses, mingled with determination to unearth what lay hidden far below the surface. As Clara observed, something powerful blossomed within that room. "We will not only pledge to keep our children safe, but we shall also seek out answers to those lost. Together, we are a force that will not be overlooked." But as affirmations surged through the audience, a voice pierced the air, echoing with unmistakable dread. "What if those shadows don't want to be found?" It was Elias Thorn. His sudden presence brought an anxious stillness to the room. Elias had emerged like a specter from the past, his expression laden with years of grief and guilt. "You think you can undo what was done? You think you can return to happy memories and ignore the darkness lingering?" His voice trembled, hands clenching into fists. The assembled townsfolk gazed at him, a palpable tension mounted, a reminder of the painful truths that haunted them. Clara felt her heart pound in her chest. "We confront it, Elias, we face it together," she replied firmly, unwilling to back down. The room shifted uneasily as Elias' gaze softened, a cascade of emotion crossing his features. I wish I could believe that, but those who hide in darkness are often unwilling to let the light in. Beware of what you awaken. His words, though heavy, inspired a stirring of resolve. Clara took a step forward, emboldened by the lingering support of her friends and family. And if darkness lurks, so be it, we'll shine our light and we will not fear. The crowd erupted in applause, a ripple of empowerment surging through the air. Elias turned away, retreating out the door, leaving behind a tension that throbbed like an unhealed wound in the room, but also an undeniable spark of collective resolve. As winter enveloped the town, Clara and her friends geared up for their most significant search yet, a community-wide effort meant to penetrate the woods, confront the lingering shadows, and reclaim every lost piece of their history. They understood well the sacrifices it would take and the potential dangers that lay ahead. Determined, they readied lanterns and shovels, tools not just for digging but for finding, their commitment evident in every heartbeat that echoed that night. They would not allow fear to silence their spirits or dim their hopes. Soon, under a full moon casting silver light upon the land, the community gathered at the edge of the woods. Clara took a deep breath and led the charge forward, knowing that to heal they needed to confront not only the darkness of their tragic past, but also the specters that lurked in their memories. "This is for every lost soul, for Mary, for those forgotten," Clara called, as her friends followed with resolve. With each step they took, they were not only uncovering shadows, they were reclaiming the light, standing together as witnesses against darkness. In a world riddled with fear, Thorn Ridge stood resilient, their entwined fates guiding them through the fog into a dawn of hope and unity. With the strength of community burning bright in their chests, they would face whatever awaited them in the depths of the woods, together, undeterred. Chapter 10 Into the Woods. The night sky loomed above Thorn Ridge, a blanket of stars shimmering like scattered diamonds. Clara and her friends, gathered at the edge of the woods, stood united in their shared purpose. The atmosphere crackled with nervous anticipation mixed with a fervent desire to illuminate the darkness that had so long sheltered their fears. "Remember, we stick together," Clara urged, gripping her lantern tightly, its flame flickering resolutely in the wind. "We're doing this for Mary and for every child whose laughter has been dimmed by secrets." As they stepped into the forest, shadows danced around them, the trees creaking as if whispering hidden truths from ages past. The air felt thick with apprehension, and Clara's heart raced, not only from fear but also from the hope that swelled within her chest. This was their moment to reclaim what had been lost. The group progressed, moving deeper into the woods, forging paths through underbrush that seemed intent on ensnaring them. Clara felt as if the forest itself was alive, absorbing the essence of their quest. Each snap of a twig beneath their feet reverberated in the stillness, echoing the unspoken memories clinging to the trees. Suddenly, Mary Lou stopped, her eyes wide with a mixture of excitement and dread. "Clara, look!" She pointed ahead, where the trees parted to reveal a clearing that hadn't been explored before. Within it stood remnants of a makeshift structure, disheveled and dark, an abandoned shack sagging beneath the weight of years. "There could be something in there," Clara declared, her voice steady despite the chill creeping up her spine. The others nodded, hearts pounding with trepidation, knowing they were crossing a threshold into the unknown. As they approached the shack, the atmosphere shifted, thickening with an unshakable presence. Clara pushed open the creaking door, the wood groaning in protest as if protesting their intrusion. Inside, the dim light from their lanterns revealed wooden beams coated in grime and a scattered array of forgotten belongings, each dust-laden item hinting at the lives once intertwined in this forgotten space. "Look over here," Benjamin shouted from the corner. Clara rushed over to find him kneeling beside a dilapidated trunk. Rusted locks clung to its sides, stubbornly resisting their attempts to open it. With a few firm tugs, Benjamin finally pried it open, revealing an assortment of writing materials, tattered pieces of parchment, faded photographs, and a small book bound in leather. Clara's heart raced. "These could be letters, we may find answers here." The group leaned in closely as Clara leafed through the contents. The letters, filled with vague references to twisted rituals and lost children, painted a disturbing portrait of a world intertwined with darkness. Each page carried the weight of grief and sorrow, revealing emotions too deep for mere words, reminiscent of their own experiences. This could be the missing pieces we've been looking for, Mary Lou whispered, tracing the letters with her fingers. The stories written here can help others understand what happened. Just then, a rustling sound from outside sent chills racing down their spines. Whispers floated through the air, barely audible yet chilling enough to freeze their blood. Clara's instincts kicked in. "Everyone, stay close," she urged, instincts guiding her as they huddled together, hearts pounding like war drums. Peering through a crack in the boarded window, Clara caught glimpses of movement, shadows slipping silently between the trees. An unsettling dread gripped her. What if it's those who have been lost, or something worse? She felt the weight of fear gnawing at her resolve. The group silently agreed this was not just a search for answers anymore. They had ventured into something much darker, a threat woven into the very fabric of the woods surrounding Thorn Ridge. "Ready?" Clara whispered, pulling her lantern close, its flickers dancing against the chilling darkness. Mary Lou nodded firmly, showing bravery even in the face of unease. "Whatever's out there, we won't let it control us." The affirmation strengthened their resolve, stirring courage in the depths of their souls. With determined steps, Clara led them out into the open, ready to confront whatever specter of the past loomed within the trees. But as they stepped across the threshold, confusion struck them and dread filled the air like a miasma. A moonlit figure suddenly stepped into view, clad in tattered clothes, face obscured by shadows. "Who goes there?" it rasped with a voice twisted by the winds of time and pain. Nobody dared respond, their bodies frozen by fear. Clara's breath hitched in her throat as recognition flickered in her mind. The tales had come alive, the shadows had materialized into a person, a figure molded by their town's history and yet cloaked in an air of sorrow. "Leave this place," the figure screamed, eyes wild with anguish as if beckoning them to remember the past, a past fraught with both mystery and tragedy. Clara felt her heart leap with recognition. Are you a lost child?" she asked, unwilling to deny the aching pull of familiarity in the darkness that surrounded them. The figure lurched backward, then descended into the shadows, joining the whispers that drifted like lost echoes amongst the trees. As it disappeared into the dark, a sense of urgency washed over Clara and her friends. "This is just the beginning," she declared, a cool determination shaping her voice. "We have to unearth the stories that cemented this fear in our town, even those that are haunting us right now." And as the chilling silence returned, the group stood united, ready to not only confront shadows of the past but to illuminate every corner of their shared history. They would confront the specters, gather their forgotten stories, and unravel the truth, whatever it may be, because the legacy of Thorn Ridge needed to be reclaimed, not buried beneath layers of fear and invisibility. Together, they stepped deeper into the unknown, knowing that the light of their courage would be the beacon guiding them through the darkness. Fueled by purpose, they were poised to unearth the secrets woven through their town, resolved to shine bright against the shadows that dared to silence them. Chapter 11 Echoes of the Past. As Clara and her friends pressed forward into the depths of the woods, their resolve bolstered by the lingering presence of the figure, they moved with a shared determination to unravel the stitched fabric of Thorn Ridge's past. The air was thicker now, each burst of wind carrying whispers, words of caution, sorrow, and unresolved histories that clawed at the boundaries of their conscious minds. The group gathered closer together. Even in their fear, a sense of responsibility surged within them. This wasn't merely about solving a mystery anymore, it was about giving voice to those silenced by the darkness, a need to bring clarity not only for themselves but for every child and family harmed by the weight of secrets long hidden. "Let's follow the lantern's light," Clara suggested, knowing that the flicker of their small fire could illuminate paths otherwise cloaked in shadows. They pressed onward, the glowing light bouncing against tree trunks and fallen leaves, casting distorted shapes that danced eerily in the twilight. Eventually, they stumbled upon a worn path leading deeper into the woods, a remnant of lives that had wandered here before them, drawn by the inexplicable pull of secrets buried within the earth. "This looks like a road of sorts," Benjamin remarked, hope edging his voice. "Maybe it leads us to where we can find more answers." As they navigated the path, Clara felt an inexplicable energy coursing through her, and visions of days gone by swept across her thoughts, brief glimpses of laughter, of games played in fields, and the dark undercurrents of fear that had crept in during twilight hours. It was both haunting and beautiful, the edge of nostalgia tethered to the burdens of the past. Suddenly, a soft sound broke through the stillness. A gentle sob echoed faintly among the trees. The group paused, hearts racing. "Did you hear that?" Mary Lou whispered, voice trembling. "I did," Clara replied, her instinct guiding her toward the sound. It could be someone in trouble. They followed the cries, moving cautiously until they found themselves at a small clearing, illuminated by moonlight. There, huddled against the base of an ancient oak, a girl about Clara's age sat with her arms wrapped tightly around her knees, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Help me," the girl pleaded, her eyes wide with fear and despair. "I thought I could find my way home, but I keep getting lost." Clara felt an immediate connection, a recognition of shared experiences. "What's your name?" she asked gently, stepping closer. "Leela," the girl whispered, her voice hoarse. "I came to the woods to find my little brother. He went missing." Clara's heart sank. Was this another child lost to the shadows of Thorn Ridge? "When did he disappear?" she pressed, kneeling beside Leela. "Last summer," Leela said, choking back sobs. "They said he wandered off too far, but I know the truth. I know something took him." "Leela, did you ever see what took him?" Benjamin interjected, urgency lacing his words. "He was with me when we found the shack, the one where they used to do awful things," she recounted, fear mingling with anger. "After that, he vanished. Everyone said I should forget, but I can't, I won't." Determination ignited within Clara. "We've been searching for answers too. We found a journal and letters. There's something dark in these woods, and we need every one of us to confront it together." With clarity in her voice, Clara extended her hand to Leela, a gesture of solidarity. "You're not alone anymore, we'll help you find him." Leela looked up, her fearful expression shimmering with a flicker of hope. Together, they rose, creating a circle united by purpose, a connectivity formed not only through shared loss but also through an unwavering commitment to illuminate the truth. As they began walking side by side, the darkness that had once enveloped them felt less daunting. "What about the shack?" Leela asked, eyes darting around as if expecting something to leap out from the shadows. "Yes, we'll return there. Whatever has been hidden, whatever darkness awaits, it must be confronted," Clara affirmed, feeling the weight of her words settle with conviction. Soon, they found themselves standing at the threshold of the dilapidated structure once more, this time the air charged with anticipation rather than fear. Clara held her lantern aloft, casting light through the cracks and crevices. "We're ready," she whispered. Inside, Leela was drawn to the trunk that had revealed the remnants of lost memories and incomplete stories. Clara and Mary Lou joined her side, discovering their collective strengths amplified in the face of hardship. As they sifted through the contents, Leela paused, noticing a faded photograph tucked beneath a parchment. Her hand trembled as she lifted it, revealing a familiar face, a smiling boy with tousled hair. "That's my brother," she gasped, tears welling as emotions flooded her senses. A series of letters revealed an unsettling narrative of manipulation intertwined with innocence, detailing a ritual steeped in darkness, a cruel attempt at harnessing the light of children through twisted beliefs. Clara felt dread pool in her gut. This history was darker than they had ever anticipated, each sentence detailing misguided attempts at control that had left scarring pain in their wake. But that pain transformed into resolve. "We have a mission now," Clara said, her voice breaking the heaviness in the air. "We will find those who have taken our innocence and confront them, for Leela's brother and all the children who have vanished." With newfound purpose coursing through them, Clara, Leela, Mary Lou, and Benjamin arranged the letters and photographs into a pile, each representing a piece of the puzzle they needed to solve. They made a pact to gather their community one final time, ready to unveil the truths that had haunted Thorn Ridge for far too long. As they ventured back, their spirits intertwined, they reminded themselves that darkness can only thrive in silence. They moved toward their town, intertwining past and present, prepared to rise against the fear that prolonged the shadows lurking within their lives. And as the stars shimmered brightly above them, Clara felt hope resonate deeply within, a promise that, together, they would illuminate the buried truths that had lingered in silence for far too long. Chapter 12, The Confrontation. The town of Thorn Ridge buzzed with an energy that had long been dormant, a collective consciousness awakening from a deep slumber. Clara felt the momentum shifting as residents gathered in the town hall under the glow of lanterns, unifying voices presenting both sorrow and determination. The moment Clara and her friends entered, a hush fell over the crowd, eyes drawn to the group as if recognizing the strength woven into their shared experience. "Thank you all for coming," Clara began, her voice steady. "Tonight we confront the darkness that has silently plagued our homes. Together we will seek not just the names of lost children but the truths that have too long remained hidden." The crowd stirred, whispers flickering like flames as Clara presented the findings, the letters and photographs, the stories of Leela's brother and Mary Dunlop, all intertwined in tragedy and memories of innocence stolen. When Clara displayed the photograph of Leela's brother, the gasps within the room echoed her own heartache. "This is not just our story, it is a shared burden of our community," she pressed, feeling the weight of countless lives resting upon her every word. Detective McBride stood beside her, his presence grounding her amidst the emotional turmoil. "This is the crucial moment," he affirmed, the steady cadence of his voice enhancing Clara's. "Together we can unveil the truths that will break this cycle of silence. Justice must serve as the guiding star for those lost, and we must unearth these shadows." The crowd fell silent, absorbing the gravity of their collective experiences, mothers who had kept watch, fathers who had lost hope, children sharing their fears late at night. The shared memories surged like waves, ushering forth a tide of revelations that threatened to engulf them all. Clara turned to Leela, voice softening. "Can you tell us more about what you experienced? We need every detail, Leela, to piece this together." With shaky breaths, Leela stepped forward again, reminiscing. "I can still hear the whispers, the laughter of lost children mixed with what felt like chanting. They believed in dark powers, claimed to offer safety for the lost in exchange for something precious." Her words echoed through the room, thickening the atmosphere with dread. One by one, the stories poured out, the laughter entwined with fear as neighbors recounted glimpses of ceremonies held beneath the moonlight, children pulled away from their homes, and the deliberate acts of omission buried so deep it felt like an ache in their bones. Clara urged the townsfolk to confront their collective guilt. "We leaned on complacency without realizing our silence allowed darkness to fester. Now we take a stand, warriors lighting the path forward." Just then, Elias Thorn emerged from the back of the hall, his presence unwelcome yet undeniable. A tense murmur snaked through the crowd as he approached. "You think your stories will rid us of the past? You cannot erase what already shaped us." "What you've done, Elias, isn't just a shadow, a choice bolstered by fear," Clara spoke, pushing back against the waves of intimidation. "We're reclaiming our voices, it's time to break this cycle." The hall crackled with tension, neighbors began shouting their disapproval. "Elias, you're the one who caused this," echoed across the wooden beams, igniting fury in once quiet hearts. Mary Lou stepped forward, her voice unwavering. "No more hiding, we refuse to let you pull the wool over our eyes. For Mary, for Leela's brother, we have lost enough." The crowd roared to life, their collective strength resonating through the walls of the hall. Clara looked out at the faces that had once been so frightened. It surged within her, this realization that strength could stand against darkness when united. With the uproar growing louder, Detective McBride stepped forward to address the tensions, asserting confidence. "We will investigate everything. We hold every truth and every soul lost in our hands. No one can escape accountability." As they prepared to leave the hall, Clara felt a familiar spark kindle amidst the refrains of passion, one that illuminated a path forward. As the crowd surged toward the exit, ready to take action against the lurking shadows in the woods, they felt bound by the shared purpose. This was more than just a town's reconciliation, it was the resurrection of hope. Leaving the town hall, Clara gazed up at the tapestry of stars against the night sky. Each twinkle mirrored the promise she carried within her, a promise of light to banish darkness, a reality woven in both heartache and healing. Together, they marched back toward the woods, hands clasped in unity, determined to unveil all buried truths that had lingered for far too long. As they crossed the threshold, the weight of history surrounded them, wrapping them in shadows as they chose to stand firm against whatever darkness awaited. Their journey into the unknown beckoned, resilience carved deep in their hearts, leading them forward into the very heart of Thorn Ridge's haunting legacy, unwavering against the specters looming next to them. Chapter 13 The Light of Truth. Arriving at the edge of the woods, the thrumming energy in Clara's chest transformed into a call to action, a unifying heartbeat echoing amongst the assembled townsfolk. Lanterns glowed like beacons against the encroaching night. Clara felt a swelling pride as each face in the crowd mirrored her own determination. The air hummed with resolve as together they ventured deeper into the woods, a collective spirit guiding them toward the shack where much of the darkness had taken root. Clara felt the echoes of shared pain course through the group. This was not simply her fight, it was a battle for every soul lost and for those still trapped in the shadows. As they approached the dilapidated structure, a mix of nostalgia and unease washed over Clara. The shack personified a long history of pain, the very foundation of secrets buried deep within Thorn Ridge. She took a deep breath, steel coursing through her veins. "Let's face this together," she urged, feeling the weight of the past push against her shoulders, but she wouldn't buckle beneath it. They pried the door open, finding it vulnerable yet resolute, a bridge between past and present. Inside, Clara felt the atmosphere thicken with familiarity. They began shining their lanterns around the interior, revealing remnants of lives once led in turmoil. As her light swept across the room, it caught on something, an outline against the back wall that sent shivers down her spine. Closing the distance, she discovered a hidden door behind a rotting stack of crates. "I think there's more," Clara whispered, heart pounding with both excitement and fear. Shaking off apprehension, she pulled the door open, revealing a narrow, dark passage that descended into an abyss of shadows. "Do we dare?" she asked, glancing back at her friends. There was a moment of silence, broken only by the rustling of leaves and the faint sound of the night holding its breath as they took a step closer to the unknown. A murmur of agreement surged through the group. "We must. This could be what we've been searching for," Mary Lou insisted, confidence soaring in her tone. Clara nodded, casting her lantern into the depths of the passage. There it lay, an uncharted space thick with despair, soil and earth piled high with memories long forgotten. Stepping cautiously into the darkness, each movement reverberated with a sense of destiny, a drive to reclaim not only the lost children but the integrity of their very community. The passage twisted and turned, damp walls brushing against their shoulders as they pressed onward. With every lantern beam, Clara could feel the weight of despair lifting, replaced with the indomitable spirit of discovery. Before long, they emerged into a vast underground chamber, its walls carved with strange symbols and imagery that crossed the boundaries of sanity, depictions of lost children entwined with shadows echoing tales that had long been dismissed. Candles flickered ominously on a stone altar, illuminating the truth that lay naked before them. "This is it, the heart of the darkness," Clara breathed, taking in the sight. "We have to bring this to light." With steady resolve, the group set up their lanterns, focusing their light on the gruesome altar that stood before them. Clara felt the urge to document the significance of this place, a reckoning against the shadows woven into their narrative. As they mapped out every symbol and letter, Leela's voice echoed in the stillness. "This is why my brother disappeared. They thought they could control the light and twisted it into something evil." The realization sent chills through the chamber. What were once innocent rituals had morphed into abominations destined to suffocate the spirit of the children who once graced the woods of Thorn Ridge. "Together, we can dismantle this," Clara declared, the firm weight of conviction guiding her actions. Writing down everything they found, she felt the power of truth radiate within the chamber. It would lay the foundation for their fight against the darkness. "What if this has been going on for generations?" Mary Lou murmured, worry etching her features. "We need to expose every last one of them." Every word uttered felt heavy, the shared knowledge pushing the boundaries of what they could confront. As they meticulously documented their findings, a flash of movement caused Clara to look up. A figure emerged from the darkness at the far end of the chamber, ethereal and haunting. "Who dares disturb what was buried?" the figure rasped, echoing in the hushed air. The group recoiled, hearts racing as they recognized the familiar countenance from the woods, the specter of a lost child pleading and filled with sorrow. "Is this your home?" Clara asked, her voice steady yet wrapped in understanding. I was lost here, forgotten by all, the figure whispered, a misguided sadness swelling within its essence. You have the chance to remember to set us all free. Clara felt the weight of her conviction rise as she stepped forward. We will not forget, we will bring your stories to light, we will stand for you. The figure nodded slowly, a glimmer of hope illuminating its eyes. Then you must confront the leaders, they guard the truth amongst their shadows, and it is through you they will be revealed. As the figure vanished, a mystical energy wafted through the chamber, a promise echoed upon their hearts. Clara and the others found themselves motivated now, their very existence grounded by the realization that they were the key to restoring reckoning. Clara turned to her comrades, their faces flickering with determination. We've unearthed the truth, but it's not over. We take this to the people. We confront our leaders, confront the darkness lurking within their hearts. They must answer for everything. With that, they emerged from the underground chamber, lanterns guiding their path back to the surface, ready to face a new dawn illuminated by the light of truth. A light that illuminated not only the ground beneath their feet but also the shadows within the hearts of their community, pushing stubbornly for redemption. Chapter 14 The Final Stand. The town of Thorn Ridge had gathered once again for unity under the banner of truth, ready to confront the very foundation of its shadows. Word had spread of Clara and her friends' discoveries, and the atmosphere pulsated with urgency, revealing an empowered community on the verge of change. Clara stood before her fellow townsfolk, her heart pounding with the gravity of the moment. We've uncovered the remnants of a darkness that has long plagued our town, she began, her voice steady but brimming with conviction. This is not merely a story of loss, it is a story of resilience, determination, and the power of unity. As she spoke, the faces of parents, friends, and neighbors reflected both anger and sorrow. We have lost lives to secrecy, to silence, and now we choose to stand against it, she declared, raising the documents they had scoured from the depths of the woods. These are the symbols, the stories, and the names that have long been buried. We will not bury them again. The town hall echoed with cries of affirmation, a sea of voices rising like a tide, determined to confront the truths that had long been interred. Clara glanced at Leela, who stood resolute, a warrior of her own story, a child spokesperson now transformed into an advocate for the vanished. The shadows cannot thrive in light, Clara continued, buoyed by the strength surrounding her. This is our stand, and it is a stand against anyone who dares use fear to control our community. We will confront our leaders and expose their sanctions of silence. As the townsfolk murmured in agreement, Detective McBride stepped forward, his conviction seeping into his tone. Your fight is our fight. I pledge to work alongside you to bring this to light. We must demand answers from those who have held power too long. Hearts will rise against the power that sought to silence us, Clara declared, fire igniting within her. Let's march together to the leaders, the ones who have hidden in shadows and clung to secrets. We'll reclaim our town, every name lost among the graves. As the crowd surged forward, limbs intertwined and hearts pounding, Clara led the charge toward the town hall, bearing messages of truth and justice like banners across proud chests. Each step felt like an echo through the ages, a journey across battlefields of old yet fresh in their hearts. Upon arriving, Clara stood firm at the town hall steps, raising her lantern before the townsfolk behind her. To confront darkness, we must reveal it. We know how lives were taken in silence, and now the time has come to shine our light. Yet as they prepared to enter, an intimidating figure approached, the still vibrant presence of Elias Thorn, determined to leave the shelves of denial behind. The townsfolk halted, tension rising like a storm cloud hovering above. Do you truly believe that by digging into the past you will find salvation? Elias challenged, confidence wrapped around his words. What consequences await you may be more than you can bear. We bear no burdens but those that shadow our past, Clara retorted boldly, sensing the steadfastness of community behind her. We confront this together. With that, she pushed through the threshold of the hall, standing unwavering before those whose voices had lingered too long in silence. The room erupted in murmurs, filled with those who had remained unwilling to confront their predators, lost souls swept into a prideful tide of deception. I stand before you, leaders of Thorn Ridge, not as a child but as a voice of this community, Clara's voice resounded through the crowd. Your hold on fear has buried truths woven with the lives of our children. We have unearthed the darkness, and now we demand accountability. The room grew still, a mixture of surprise and fear reflected in the eyes of those in power. But Clara held strong, unyielding, and gathering her friends beside her, they formed a united front, shields against the shadows that had held them at bay. In an atmosphere thick with tension, Clara presented the documents they unearthed, each symbol a testament to the pain of lost years and lives consumed by secrecy. The murmurs of the crowd grew louder, emboldening her to push forward. "We will no longer allow fear to guide our decisions," she continued fiercely. "We demand that you confront not only the children who were lost but the laws that have kept our tongues silent." The conversation swayed as the leaders began to respond, but instead of capitulation, justifications emerged, cloaked in denial. "We cannot disrupt the order of our community," one leader insisted, shaking his head. "To acknowledge the darkness may lead to a fracture we cannot mend." But Clara stepped closer, unfazed. "Your order is built on suffering. Do you not see how many lives have crumbled under its weight? You're the ones holding all of us back." With those words, the tide shifted, not just within the walls of the hall but within the spirits of those gathered outside. The once fractured whispers of fear transformed into cries for change, resonating deeply as they echoed across the threshold. "Your time is over," cried Leela, her voice rising in defiance. "We choose to write our story, and it will not include fear. We declare our own destiny." Stepping back, Clara looked at her friends, each face illuminated by lantern light and strength poured from the shadows. "We are here together, not as mere children of Thorn Ridge, but as the voices of every child who has ever been lost. We will stand unwavering in the face of loneliness and pain, reclaiming our narrative." With that, the invisible shackles of fear shattered amidst the cheers and applause. The collective strength surged through the crowd, empowering them to demand reform, representation, and the promise of accountability. Determination radiated from the group, blurring the lines between generations. In that moment, they forged a pact, armed with the truths they had unearthed. Clara understood that the fight for their town was only just beginning. And so, under the radiance of the moon and the strength of courage, Thorn Ridge became a place reshaped by light, transformed by the voices that rose strong from the shadows, an undeniable reminder that darkness could only be vanquished through the promise of truth and the power of unity. Together, they would forge ahead, undaunted by the past, embracing the brilliance of a shared future. Chapter 15, A New Dawn. As dawn broke over Thorn Ridge, the first rays of sunlight poured through the trees, bathing the town in a warm glow that felt like an embrace after a long night of despair. Clara stood at her bedroom window, the echoes of the preceding day reverberating through her mind. The community had risen together and now lay on the precipice of transformation, a commitment to change that resonated in every heart. After the confrontation in the town hall, it became clear that their fight was far from over. Clara, Layla, Benjamin, and Mary Lou gathered early that morning, each armed with a renewed sense of purpose. They knew that every conversation needed to continue, every shadow faced, and every story told. "We'll start by meeting with families that have been affected," Leela suggested, her expression determined. "Everyone deserves to share their truth and feel heard." Clara nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. "We can organize a community gathering, invite everyone to tell their stories. It will serve as a reminder that we stand united and that no child should ever feel alone again." The group set out to canvass the town, knocking on doors, inviting families to join in the healing. "This is not just about the past, it's about building a future for all of us," Clara would explain, her voice imbued with conviction. The feedback was overwhelmingly positive, the community eager to assemble, to forge connections, and to reclaim lost narratives. As they spread the word, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that they were now part of a greater movement. The energy had shifted, bonded by shared trauma, they had become catalysts for change, a choir of voices that would no longer be silenced. Soon, the day of the community gathering arrived, a vibrant gathering simmering with anticipation. The town square burst with life, festooned in colorful banners and lanterns, a celebration of newfound strength. Families mingled, sharing meals and laughter while Clara's heart swelled at the sight. "We are writing a new chapter," Clara addressed the crowd standing on a makeshift stage. Today we gather not just to remember our lost but to celebrate the lives we are choosing to protect. Leela stepped beside her, standing as a testament to resilience. Together we will ensure our children feel safe, that every voice counts, and that secrets will no longer shape our lives. With every story shared, the weight of loss transformed into collective resolve. Clara listened intently, stories of children lost, of fear endured, and the silent screams that echoed through bedrooms at night. But with each tale came the promise of hope, the whispers of children's laughter that sought to enrich every corner of Thorn Ridge. As families united, bonds forged in grief began to blossom into the light of community. Clara felt the intertwining fabric of support comforting them all, every voice growing stronger together. Past burdens, too long ignored, began to dissipate like morning mist. At the end of the gathering, Clara handed out lanterns, symbols of their commitment to illuminate their town, ensuring no child would slip into silence again. These lights remind us, together we shine brighter, and together we can face anything ahead. As night fell, the townsfolk released their lanterns into the sky, each one carrying a message of hope upward into the cosmos, where the stars twinkled like promises fulfilled. Clara gazed at the spectacle, awe-filled, wonderstruck by the unity that had evolved from pain into resilience. With the scent of hope filling the air, Clara felt invigorated, aware that they were crafting a new legacy, a legacy marked by vigilance, care, and collective responsibility. The whispers of the past could still be heard, yet they became tools of awareness, guiding them onward. But with newfound strength came a lingering question: whom would they confront next? Clara and her friends understood that the foundations of their past produced resilience, but they also needed to remain vigilant against whatever remnants of darkness still lurked in wait. The following day, Clara gathered the group for a strategy session. "We need to explore the past just as much as we confront the present," she explained, gathering their attention. "We must delve deeper into the stories of those who led us down this dark path. It's time to find out who was behind the rituals and set the stage for a reckoning. If we can connect the dots, we may uncover who else was involved," Mary Lou pointed out, eyes shining with determination. "Exactly," Clara nodded, encouraged by their enthusiasm. "We need to research historical records and speak to elders who might know more about the town's troubled lore." And so, they set off on their mission, diving headfirst into the secrets that had gripped Thorn Ridge for generations. Libraries became their sanctuaries, dusty tomes and old journals their guides. Each page lent insight into a history masked in folklore and faded manuscripts. Leela found the stories captivating, each word igniting sparks that fueled her interest. "These tales can guide us," she mused. "Connecting the past with present truths will let us confront those who need to be held accountable." Weeks passed as they emerged from the archives armed with details that concealed significant connections. An old ledger revealed a list of names that had, over generations, been linked to the town's shadowy dealings, a shadow government entrenched within the very roots of Thorn Ridge. "Oh my gosh, look at this!" Benjamin exclaimed one afternoon, casually flipping pages at the library. "The families, they're all intertwined, some even acted as benefactors for the very rituals our community suffered from." Clara's heart raced as she processed this revelation. These families had power, influence, their ties run deep. The group worked tirelessly to document everything, creating a timeline of events that had shaped the town's dark legacy while rallying the community around a shared commitment to justice. As they compiled their findings, each revelation unveiled a web more complex than they had imagined. Page after page revealed connections that interlaced with one another, every name a thread that linked back to the rituals and the grief that had haunted their streets. They organized another town meeting, armed with their knowledge. Clara addressed the crowd, her tone commanding yet hopeful. "We have the evidence. These leaders, these families operated in shadows, perpetuating fear and silence. Tonight we come prepared to unveil the truth." Leela stepped forward with the records, determination radiating from her. "Together, we must ensure that justice prevails. We will not let their history dictate our future." After snippets of murmurs among townsfolk assessing the weight of their findings, Clara could feel the tide stirring in the room. Families began to grip one another tightly, knowing their collective power to uproot generations of secrecy had returned. From that day forward, the winds shifted in Thorn Ridge. As they galvanized their community, news spread about their efforts, an awakening sought and fought within every heart. The town that had once been cradled by fear now stood firmly against the ghosts of its past. With each passing day, word spread like wildfire beyond their borders, inviting allies, advocates, and investigators determined to support their cause for justice. The community coalesced, standing taller in the face of history, shining against the echoes from shadows now illuminated. Finally, a reckoning loomed ahead, a confrontation against those who had been tethered to the power of darkness for so long. United as guardians of their shared truth, Clara and her friends became beacons, determined to expose what had once been buried beneath the weight of fear. Together, they marched forward, the light of truth guiding their path, a relentless force in a world where darkness sought to smother hope, yet failed dramatically to extinguish the flame residing adamantly within each of them. The fight was for every child, every story, and every lost light now reclaimed. Thorn Ridge was reborn. And as they stepped into their future, Clara understood one immutable truth. From the ashes of despair, hope would always ignite, forever lighting the path ahead. Together they would shine brightly, embodying that which could never again be silenced. Chapter 16, The Reckoning. The atmosphere throughout Thorn Ridge thickened with intensity as the day of reckoning approached. A long-awaited confrontation steeped in tension and urgency. Clara, Leela, Benjamin, and Mary Lou stood side by side, fortified by the unwavering resolve of their community. They had worked tirelessly, gathering evidence and building a coalition of support that now felt ready to face the shadows lurking in their town's history. The town hall buzzed with anticipation as citizens filed into the room, eager to witness this pivotal moment. Parents, children, and friends brought lanterns, a symbolic gesture of solidarity and hope. The flickering lights illuminated faces filled with determination, each person ready to reclaim the narrative their town had repressed for far too long. "Thank you for coming tonight," Clara began, stepping up to the podium. She took a deep breath, steadying herself against the electric energy igniting the room. "Today, we gather not just to confront our past but to demand justice for every child lost to the darkness. Together, we will ensure this never happens again." Her words resonated, underscored by the rustling of lanterns as they flickered in alignment with the swelling hearts of the audience. With every breath she drew, Clara summoned the strength of those lost. She continued, her voice gradually rising with passion. "For too long has silence smothered our voices, allowing shadows to perpetuate their grip on our lives. Today we shatter that silence." As families murmured affirmations, she knew they were ready to confront those who had orchestrated pain from the shadows. "We will name those who have wielded power to shackle our community. No longer will we let their secrets fester in the dark." Leela stepped beside Clara, an unwavering fire ignited within her heart. "We've gathered proof, documents, and evidence surrounding the families who formed the core of this darkness. They thought they could control the narrative, but they underestimated the power of our unity." Applause erupted within the room, a tangible swell of energy that sparked hope amidst the flickering lanterns. The crowd surged forward, supporting their mission, the promise of justice igniting an unquenchable fire. "Tonight, we confront the Willowstone family," Clara declared, her heart racing in anticipation. "They are responsible for much of the darkness that has loomed over Thorn Ridge for generations. They manipulated our fears, kept our children silent, and buried our pain beneath layers of secrecy." The whispers that had spread through the town grew louder, charged with disbelief and anticipation as they awaited the confrontation. Elias Thorn stood at the back of the hall, his expression now a mixture of apprehension and introspection. The resentment he once wore like armor had cracked, and now he found himself just another villager grappling with grief. Clara's eyes locked onto his, and in that moment something shifted between them, a flicker of understanding igniting in the space separations had woven. The gathering watched as Clara motioned to the wooden stage and turned her attention back to the faces turned toward her. "In our quest for justice, we will not allow fear to silence us again. We will present this evidence to our leaders and demand accountability. No more secrets. We'll honor every child lost, ensure their stories are known, and transform the tale of Thorn Ridge." In the quiet that followed, Clara and the group revealed the documents they had gathered, laying them across the podium for all to see. As the community leaned in closer, Leela picked up a page marked with the names inscribed, historical connections lingering in the shadows. "These names have power, they've influenced our lives in unseen ways." The air swelled with outrage as Clara continued. These families believed they would go unchallenged, that our fears would silence us. But today, we stand united. We will not waver in the face of those who wish to reclaim their dominance. As apprehensive murmurs rippled through the crowd, they understood this confrontation wouldn't be easy. Society was built on vertices of complacency and turned heads. But as Clara reminded them, strength lay in transparency, community, and unity. Let us march forward, demanding accountability for every lost soul, demanding justice for every child whose laughter has been snuffed out, Clara implored, her voice thundering with ferocity. The townsfolk cheered anew, voices intertwining like a hymn of defiance and hope. Clara stepped back, a hum of powerful energy engulfing her as she was joined by the townsfolk, all bound by memories forged in darkness, now igniting a fire fierce enough to shatter the veil of secrecy. Then, as they prepared to march from the hall, Clara received word that representatives of the Willowstone family were en route. The energy shifted once more, a palpable tension filled the air as fear and resolve coalesced within the assembled community. The hall erupted into conversation, the people increasingly animated as they waited. "This is the culmination of everything we've worked for," Benjamin said, his voice a gentle anchor amid the rising tide of uncertainty. "We've brought the fight to them." Finally, a hesitant knock came at the door and the atmosphere thickened with anticipation. Clara shared a knowing glance with Leela and Mary Lou, their intentions steeled with purpose. "This is it," Clara whispered, her voice tinged with resolve as she motioned for the door to be opened. Representatives from the Willowstone family entered, an air of arrogance clinging to their demeanor. Immediately, a hush fell over the crowd, eyes narrowing, ready to confront the dark legacies they had long endured. "What is the meaning of this ruckus?" the matriarch of the Willowstone family, Anna Willowstone, demanded, fingers crossed imperiously before her. "What do you expect to achieve here?" Though terror lurked at the edges, Clara felt power flush through her veins. "We expect accountability for the lives lost, for the families manipulated by shadows," she declared, stepping forward, courage coiling in her chest. The crowd echoed with murmurs of affirmation, voices merging into a chorus chanting for justice. Clara knew that this was their moment, a moment where a community stirred past its fears to confront the hidebound powers that had suffocated them for too long. Anna Willowstone laughed, dismissing their vigor with a wave of her hand. "You think this noise will change anything? You are children playing at grown-up games. The past cannot be erased." "Watch us," Clara shot back, fierceness igniting her spirit. "We will not allow our past to define us. We are here to break the chains you have forged." "Please," Leela implored, heart pounding with the urgency of her words. "You think you can control every narrative, you must be held accountable." As the representatives exchanged bewildered glances, aware of the undeniable courage behind each voice raised against them, Clara pressed on. "We'll make sure our town's legacy is one of empowerment and healing, not one steeped in secrecy, no more." The crowd surged forward, chanting loudly, voices rising like flames licking against the night sky. Awareness swept through them, a shared realization that truth would not cower before arrogance. "Enough!" Anna Willowstone shouted, her voice laden with frustration, but Clara met her steady gaze. The shift within her heart settled into clarity, an urgent push illuminating her sense of purpose. "Our story is just beginning," Clara declared, gripping Leela's hand firmly. "We carry the memories of lost children with us, each name, each experience binding us to our legacy. You have underestimated our strength, but now we are ready to reclaim what you thought you could control. Today, we dismantle the structures of fear and manipulation. You will not only be confronted but may be brought to justice for what you've wrought," Clara concluded with fierce determination. The room trembled with shared vigor, a collective roar echoing off the walls. Anna Willowstone, for the first time, flickered with uncertainty as she began to understand that the children she had dismissed weren't merely brimming with naivete, they were relentless in their fight against oppression. As Clara led the charge forward, she heralded hope anew, a conflation of hearts and minds uniting under the banner of truth, no longer willing to crumble beneath the weight of secrets. The power of community swelled around her, rising in unison to illuminate the dark corners of their legacy. And with every heartbeat, every pulse resonating with courage, the people of Thorn Ridge stood up for justice, prepared to carve a brighter future in the light of reckoning and in the shadow of those who had sought to bind them in fear. Together, they ignited the flames that would burn through the past, securing a new dawn for every voice lost to darkness. As the sun set beyond the horizon, it took with it a long-held belief: their resolve, their unity would forever change the narrative of Thorn Ridge. Hope was no longer a distant memory, it was woven into their hearts, a legacy no darkness could ever again extinguish. And so, the reality within Thorn Ridge transformed, born from the ashes of fear and silence. As day broke over the horizon for a new chapter, the townsfolk stood united, emboldened by the knowledge that their voices had the power to shape their future. In the weeks following the confrontation, Clara and her friends watched as the community rallied around newfound purpose. Together, they began to dismantle the shadows of secrecy, rewriting a narrative that had once felt insurmountable. The Willowstone family, confronted by the undeniable evidence, reluctantly faced scrutiny. Investigations were launched, holding them accountable for their actions and symbolizing a critical step toward healing for the community. The support poured in from neighboring towns and even state authorities, drawn by the stories that resonated beyond Thorn Ridge. The children who had once felt lost began to reclaim their laughter, and the elders who had carried the burdens of history found solace in the strength of the next generation. Clara often reflected on the weight of their shared experiences, knowing that together they could transcend pain and create a legacy built on resilience. Community gatherings became a source of connection, discussions blossoming around the firelight as families shared tales of both sorrow and celebration. They established annual memorials to honor the lost children and foster community spirit, ensuring that no child would ever be forgotten again. As Clara looked back on the journey, she felt gratitude swell within her. She understood that this wasn't just a series of events linked by grief, but a deeply woven fabric of love, courage, and strength that would continue to guide them forward. Children rode their bicycles down the streets again, laughter ringing out like sweet music. Parents embraced one another, knowing they were no longer bound by fear but supported by their neighbors. In the heart of Thorn Ridge, Clara found solace in the knowledge that they had faced their darkest truths and emerged victorious. The woods, once fraught with shadows, became a place for exploration and discovery, where children could run freely without fear. The bonds forged in that struggle became the cornerstones of a future illuminated by the light they had so fiercely reclaimed. As seasons turned and years passed, Clara remained a vigilant guardian of the town's legacy. She often led community meetings, her voice echoing with conviction, reminding everyone of the importance of speaking out. "The light we carry," she would say, "is not merely a beacon for ourselves but a guiding force for those yet to come." And amidst the triumph, Clara never forgot the lessons learned, the profound understanding that hope can always rise from despair, darkness can be conquered by light, and the strength of community can rewrite any narrative. As she watched the next generation play beneath the sun-dappled trees, she understood their future was bright, a promise forged in shattered chains, renewed with compassion, resilience, and the beauty of unity. Thorn Ridge would forever stand as a testament to the power of truth, a place reborn from the darkness into a legacy woven with love, light, and unyielding hope.